Hi and welcome back to Joe Talks Cars, and welcome to another video. Welcome to the north of Scotland. I'm in my Golf GTI and I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk to you about what it's been like to own my Mk6 GTI, because a lot of people question why I bought such an old car to begin with, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to take the car out on these amazing roads we have around here and share with you my experience with owning it, and whether or not I would recommend it. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump back in the car and go for a quick drive on these stunning Scottish roads. So, the Mk6 Golf GTI. It was launched in 2009, so this car being a 2010 makes it quite an early car. Regular viewers of this channel will know that I bought this car when it was about 8 years old, so it wasn't exactly a new car. And I had lots of people saying to me, why on earth are you buying such an old car? My reasoning was value for money, and I think that is what I'm going to touch on straight away when it comes to the Mk6 GTI. About 5 years ago, and like I said, this car was 8 years old. It had 48,000 miles on it, I think. I paid 11.5 grand for the car. Not a lot of money. And now, with 85,000 miles on it, you could probably pick this up for about 7.5 to 8,000 pounds. Again, it's not a lot of money. I just think that the Mk6 represents amazing value for money over the Mk7. The Mk7s command much more money. The Mk8s, as we all know, have just been released and they're so expensive. And the thing with GTIs, the recipe hasn't really changed. They like to keep the cars the same, and that is true of this. When this car launched, it was kind of forgotten about. The Mk5 came out, and after years of making disastrous GTIs, the Mk5 revived the GTI badge and brought us one of the best cars VW have ever made. They then followed with the Mk6, which admittedly was just a facelift. Just a little facelift on the original recipe. And for that reason, it's just been forgotten. And I just think that's a real big shame, because the Mk6 GTI is a facelift of the Mk5. It's slightly better, it's got a nicer interior, and I do think from the outside it looks better, and yet it's just been forgotten. And I don't understand why. It's just as good, if not better than the Mk5, and yet no one talks about it. So if you're in the market for a Mk6 GTI, obviously price comes into it, and these cars are staggeringly good value for money. So it does make sense to buy one in 2023, because simply they're a bargain of the century. What this car offers in terms of performance, the way it looks, and that GTI badge, I don't think much comes close for this kind of money. The next thing I want to touch on about the Mk6 GTI, and specifically this one, because I know not all two cars are the same. Some people may have had really bad experiences with them, but we have had really good experience with this car in terms of its reliability, build quality, and everything. This car, I've owned it, like I said, for 5 years, and I've recently done a video, which I'll link in the top of the screen now, to talk about how much it's cost me over that time. And it's practically nothing. We've had to put tyres on it, brakes, MOTs and servicing. That's it. Nothing's ever really broken. We have got an engine warning light on. It's been on since I got the car, and it is something I do want to sort out, and that's a common fault on these, and it's to do with the inlet manifold. Weirdly, it doesn't affect the way the car drives, and like I said, I've left it on for about 5 years, so it's clearly not much of an issue. So reliability on the Mk6 is not what people say, or at least it hasn't been for me. This car has been supremely reliable, probably the most reliable car I've ever had, and it looks to continue that way. When you drive it, you don't feel like you're driving a car from 2010. Bearing in mind this car has not had a suspension refresh or anything. It's had springs, but it's not had any major work done to it. The steering is straight and true, and the way it takes bends, I mean, honestly, it's such a fun hot hatch. That leads me on to one of the other things about the Mk6 GTI, which, in my opinion, is the best bit of all, and it's the fun. The fun you can have in this car is better than any other hot hatch I've ever driven. I used to have a Renault Sport Megane. And yes, that was fun, very track focused car, but it wasn't fun on the road. Up here in Scotland, as you can see, the roads are stunning, but they are very bumpy. A lot of them are single file, and you've got to go steady. This car allows you to push the limit of the car without going crazy warp speed, and it just gives you so much driver involvement and so much fun. And with the noise it makes, don't think you'll be able to hear it, but yeah, the noise of the Mk6 is actually really nice. So in the later models, they have actually pumped in some artificial noise. Back in the Mk6, that technology was simply not available. So what they did instead was fit a hollow tube connecting the engine block to the firewall. It echoes the engine into the cabin. So in some ways, it's a little bit of a cheat, but it's not fake. And actually, when I've been recording this car from the outside, as you'll have seen, it sounds pretty good too. So yeah, the amount of fun you can have in this car, I think really sells it for me. I knew the minute I got in it all those years ago that I was going to buy it, because you take a few bends and accelerate harshly out of bends and you're totally sold. My other car, as you will know, is a Porsche Cayman 987, and genuinely I hold the cars in the same regard. They're both just as good as each other in their own way. What the Cayman offers is totally different, but the GTI always puts a smile on my face. All these roads up here in Scotland, I've never once been going round them thinking, I wish I was in the Porsche. And that says everything you need to know about the GTI. Another thing worth mentioning, again, it comes down to sort of the build quality of this car, but I just feel that that VW peaked in this year. VW have always made really well-made cars, that's not even up for discussion, but they have gone up and down over the years. And I think in 2010, when they brought this thing out, yeah, they knew how to put a car together properly. The wind noise is kept to an unbelievably low level, and there's no rattles, no squeaks. The only rattles in this car is all the junk I'm carrying around and my child seat at the back. Other than that, there's no rattles whatsoever. And it's just a really comfy car to do long miles in. We often do very, very long trips in this car. We've taken it across Europe twice, and it's also we go up to Scotland regularly, which is a good 9-hour drive. So you can easily do long distance in these. In terms of the spec on this car, if anyone is wondering, it's an extremely basic spec, and that is what I love about it. All the latest hot hatches that come out now have got adaptive cruise control, they've got all these different weird electronic differentials, some of them even have hybrid power now. This was from an era where none of that really was of concern to anyone, no one really wanted it. And the Mk6 GTI is about as close as you can get as a modern but back to basics hot hatch. I think this is potentially one of the last hot hatches of this type. A very, very basic, raw experience. It's not got so many driver assists that are going to take away the involvement you get from the car, but it's still got the usual creature comforts. Nice comfy seats, heated, and it's got traction control. That's about your lot. This car is very, very low spec in terms of what you could get on a GTI at the time, and I just think it suits the car for it. A lot of people buy older cars because they like the simplicity, and I just think that for someone of my age, this is as simple as you want to get. And it's just the perfect daily driving hot hatch. And don't be put off by the fact that they're now getting on a bit, because the money you'll save in buying one, the smiles it's going to put on your face, it's going to be worth every single penny. So I do intend to create a lot more videos on this car. Every time I upload a video of this car, it's always so popular. And I think that's because they're not documented online a lot. And that's quite a good appeal of this car as well, is that they seem to have some sort of rarity value to them. Because everyone bought the Mark V, and there's a lot of old Golfs going around, and certainly a lot of Mark 7s. Mark 6 is a rarity on the roads. In fact, we drove up to Scotland, it took us 8.5, 9 hours, and I don't think I saw another Mk6 GTI on the road. So they do have that rarity, which I really do like. You don't see many of them, and they are a very, very good looking car. So yeah, I do plan on featuring this car a lot more on the channel, and getting out on some nice roads with it and really sharing with you what it's like to own this car, because my Porsche is the main feature of the channel. It's what brought a lot of people here, but I can't ignore the fact that this car gets seriously good views. You all seem to enjoy it, and a lot of you have even said that you also own a Mk6 GTI as well as a Cayman 987. Really weird, but it just shows that these cars appeal to a certain type of person, and that person is me. So, is it worth owning a Mk6 Golf GTI in 2023? Well, I can categorically tell you it is. Not only are you saving money buying the car, but the car offers amazing performance and reliability that is simply unmatched by its rivals. Yes, you can go and look at the Mk7 or Mk8 GTIs. They offer more or less the same thing, but a slightly more refined build, more power, but at a higher cost. This Mk6 GTI, I think, represents unbelievable value for money. It doesn't look like it's going to lose any more. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, for plenty more videos to come. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.